Thank you and welcome to the next exciting chapter for the or activity for the OHS Body of Knowledge. And I'd like to start first off by thanking RMIT for providing the venue. And it's been, I was talking with Andrew Hopkins was saying just before, he thinks it's a fantastic venue for something like this. So I'd like to introduce Susanne Tepe from RMIT as our host. Thanks, Susan.
Oh, and you don't realise this, but David Boris is here on the screen, so you know that, but they don't. He's waving. But it was a bit of a surprise for me to come up here and find David Boris. Nonetheless, thank you all for coming. I'm delighted to see people here to launch the Body of Knowledge editions. We launched the real Body of Knowledge in 2012. And it was a wonderful experience, a very long gestation, but a lovely birth. And it's wonderful to see additions to the family at appropriate times. So I hope we can continue that analogy and have people, or people willing to add to this body of knowledge and make sure that it does grow and develop the way we would want it to. So I'm delighted to be able to be the host. I mean, I think RMIT has a wonderful place here. This is the Swanston Academic Building, and once you actually get into the room, it really is a lovely place to, one, to teach and also be the recipient of these things. So I'm glad you were able to come along. And I'm even more delighted that we've got such a good content that we're going to be able to launch. So I'm happy to let the proceedings begin, but maybe not because Pam's still over there talking. So welcome, and I hope you're able to stay around for drinks, and also because we are in such a lovely place and this is a safety conference, if you hear, how's it go, beep, 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 then you get ready to leave. If it goes whoop, 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 you are to assemble outside the door and go out down the escalators and out to the back space there where they'll hit you with a basketball, but it'll be safer than burning up. So please, and other important thing, if you go back the way you came toward the escalators, you will find the toilet facilities. Important things to know. So thank you for coming, and I'm delighted to see you all here.
So thank you very much to RMIT. The Body of Knowledge is a joint activity with the Safety Institute of Australia and the Accreditation Board. So I'd like to invite David Clarke, who is very fresh into the CEO role of the Safety Institute, just to make a statement about the Safety Institute and the Body of Knowledge. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks very much. Goodness. Well, what about a clap for Susanne Tepe as well then? Oh, no, I've just pressed the button, so I'm sorry about that. But this is me. Look, I'll be very brief. I'm new in the role, and it's been a whirlwind few weeks in the role. But to me, when we think about a body of knowledge, I really think about a book. And in this case, I think this book is not so much an indication of itself as the extraordinary body of knowledge that exists throughout the industry and the very, very many people who've come together to produce this fantastic piece of work. And it's one of the gems that I have been lucky enough to find since I took on the role of the Chief Executive of the Safety Institute of Australia. I've had the opportunity to listen to Susanne do a presentation at the Victorian Annual General Meeting of the Safety Institute of Australia. And that was very, very enlightening, and thank you for that. And I've had 2 or 3 hours in a room with Pam learning about the meaning of life and many other things, which has been really wonderful, and it's been a fantastic orientation for myself to be around so many people who very much are in themselves the body of knowledge that's helped contribute to this piece of work. It's great to be here and part of the launch of the second edition of what I think is one of the great products, as I said, of the work, health and safety industry. From the start of this project, and it has had its long gestation, the SIA expressed its commitment to the body of knowledge and Pam Pryor at that stage was the Safety Institute of Australia representative chairing the technical panel, and Professor Mike Capra, our second representative in the group. We also took on the role of managing the financial aspects of the contract with WorkSafe Victoria and financially auspicing the project. People will be aware that WorkSafe Victoria signed copyright to the Safety Institute of Australia on the condition that the BOC, if I can call it that, was maintained and updated. And in turn, we felt this could be best achieved through the guidance of our accreditation board as custodian. The accreditation board was created by the Safety Institute of Australia and is auspiced by the Safety Institute of Australia, but stands very much as an independent governance group with a which allows it to use its very special expertise to focus on education accreditation and on the materials that need to underpin successful accreditation of education, and the body of knowledge is very much a part of that process. It's also a critical importance to the capability of health and safety professionals, not just as a foundation component of the education accreditation criteria, but also our emerging certification program. And we're currently undertaking a series of workshops around Australia introducing certification, which I've discovered is a hot topic. And it's been very much a bit of a baptism of fire for me in that area. But I do think that these two elements, accreditation, certification, and underpinned by this wonderful piece of work, are really, really crucial to the status of the profession, and it really allowing organisations like the Safety Institute of Australia to take a stronger position across industry on safety and improve workplace health and safety wherever it needs to be improved. The body of knowledge is freely available to individual professionals, and we also encourage organisations to engage with the book and make the information available within their companies through a licensing process. That's it from me, but in closing, I just wanted to express the ongoing commitment of the SIA to supporting the body of knowledge and to ensuring that it's maintained to the highest standards. I think that's really critical. It's a very important responsibility that we have, and we really appreciate the work of the Education Accreditation Board in taking the leadership role in that, because that's where the real body of expertise lies in being able to achieve that. So I'd like to acknowledge Mike Capra and the board of the Education Accreditation Board for their ongoing stewardship, and also Pam Pryor in her role as registrar and the work that she does in coordinating and managing that process to a really high standard. So thank you very much. To me, the body of knowledge is one of the things that I've discovered that's very important to me. It's a living example of collaboration and partnership, and my job at the SIA is to reinvigorate collaboration and partnership within the organisation to make it stronger, and that's something our industry needs more of, and to me this work and the way it's been put together is an inspiration. Thanks very much.
So, as Susan said, the body of knowledge was launched in 2012. Just over 12 months ago, about 18 months ago, I went and did a presentation at Safe Work Australia about the body of knowledge and what it was, where it was going, and happened to mention that there were some chapters that we thought needed to be developed. Around about 2 hours after I completed that presentation, I was in discussion with a couple of people from Safe Work Australia about funding 4 of those chapters. And sometimes bureaucracy is criticised for being slow moving, but definitely not on this occasion. And so these 4 chapters would not have been written, would not have come about without the initiative of Safe Work Australia, without the support of Safe Work Australia, and obviously without their funding. So I'd like to invite Julia Collins as Acting Branch Manager to come up and make a comment from the funding point of view. Thanks, Julia.
Thanks very much, Pam, and the OHS Education Accreditation Board for the opportunity to explain how the OHS Body of Knowledge fits into the Australian Work Health and Safety Strategy 2012-2022. That 10-year strategy has been endorsed by all governments and also by unions and peak employer groups, and there are some people in the audience here who are very closely involved in the development of that strategy. And what it does, it's actually aimed at the people who influence work health and safety. And it's really aimed at driving key national activities to improve work health and safety in Australia. It starts with a vision: healthy, safe and productive working lives. So the vision deliberately included productive working lives. We wanted to emphasise the link between safety and productivity. And we also wanted to talk about people's entire working life, so health and safety being an important part of that whole continuum, not just about the here and now. The underlying philosophy of the Australian strategy is that to reduce the incidence of death, disorders and injuries, we need to reduce workers' exposure to hazards and risks. And this in turn should be achieved by improving hazard controls. There was a clear view when we were developing the strategy that a measure of success would be that over time, duty holders would implement control further up the control hierarchy. And for this to occur, we need a robust work health and safety infrastructure. So this means effective modern work health and safety laws, it means skills and knowledge, and it also means evidence. Importantly for you as work health and safety professionals, academics and educators, the Australian strategy identifies the need for an effective education and training system. Everyone, whether they're business owners, whether they're workers, regulators and professionals, must have the knowledge and skills to achieve our strategy vision. Knowledge and skills are just such a fundamental part of actually achieving compliance with the work health and safety laws. So we need work health and safety professionals and practitioners who support businesses and organisations to have the right skills for a modern Australia. The education system and the academic writings and research are key parts of that infrastructure. We also need timely and reliable research and data to help guide policy design and also to guide where we should focus our efforts nationally and locally. The Australian Work Health and Safety Strategy identifies 7 key action areas for improvement, and one of those is work health and safety capabilities. Throughout the consultation on the strategy, when we were developing it, a constant theme at every stage was the need to ensure everyone in the workplace has the capabilities, the knowledge, the skills, the resources to fulfil their role in relation to work health and safety. Those in charge of the workplace need to be able to make informed decisions. Managers need to be able to identify hazards and understand how to manage associated work health and safety risks, and to judge whether the control measures are effective. And they need to be able to communicate effectively with workers. They need the support and advice of knowledgeable and competent work health and safety professionals. Work health and safety regulators also support duty holders to help them comply with the legislation. Inspectors and other regulator staff need the skills, knowledge and resources to effectively perform their roles. A key challenge that we see for national activities under this action area is to both expand opportunities for learning and ensure continuous improvement in the standard and quality of training and education. We heard from many sources that there are gaps in practitioners and professionals and the regulator's capacity to deal with complex hazards. In a decade, many existing workplace hazards will still be present and new ones will have appeared. It's particularly important that education and training enable those who provide professional or practical advice to competently deal with both old and new hazards. Those who provide advice also need to know when to refer the matter to others with appropriate expertise. But they also need to provide the right information to suit the circumstances at the time. We often hear businesses being told to do things that are actually unnecessary, and this is often by consultants, by lawyers, by inspectors, and this causes complaints about red tape and regulatory burden. So this might be fine for businesses that are well resourced, but it's not fine for small businesses. And it actually has, I think, a negative impact. So business have then a negative experience about work health and safety instead of a positive one. So I think that's something we do need to focus on. National activities under the Work Health and Safety Capability Action Area of the Australian Strategy will support 4 outcomes. Everyone in a workplace has the work health and safety capabilities they require. Those providing work health and safety education, training and advice have the appropriate capabilities. Inspectors and other staff of work health and safety regulators have the work health and safety capabilities to effectively perform their role. And then finally, work health and safety skills development is integrated effectively into relevant education and training programs. I think my dream is that work health and safety knowledge and skills will one day become so well integrated into secondary and tertiary education that it will actually do health and safety consultants out of a job. So I'm very pleased to be here today to show Safe Work Australia support for the work of everyone who's been involved in the Body of Knowledge project over the past 7 years. Conceiving and creating the Body of Knowledge has been an absolute heroic undertaking, and we all owe a great debt and gratitude to those who have made it happen and created this living resource which will continue to support new work health and safety professionals coming into the field and those who are also already well advanced in their careers. I would like to particularly acknowledge the vision of Victorian WorkCover Authority, which funded the original development of the Body of Knowledge, and the tenacity of the Safety Institute of Australia and its members who took on the challenge of making it happen. Safe Work Australia was closely involved in the original process for developing the Body of Knowledge. Following its launch, we agreed there were some more specialised topics which we had a particular interest in developing, and this led us to commission the 4 chapters which are being launched today. So these cover user-centred design, the principles of work health and safety law, organisational culture and risk and decision making. I would like to thank all the work health and safety professionals who have given their time and considerable expertise to this project. We're all grateful for your hard work, for your willingness to think deeply and rigorously about the things which professionals need to know to practice in this field. Finally, I'd like to close by rereading to you the dedication from the Body of Knowledge. This OHS Body of Knowledge is dedicated to all those who die, are injured or whose health suffers as a result of their work activities, and to their families and others affected by these deaths, injuries and illnesses. It is dedicated also to those OHS professionals, OHS practitioners and others whose work and life passion is the improvement of safety and health conditions in the workplace, and who believe that work should be a positive life influence rather than a source of harm. In the end, I think that's why we're all here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia. And I think as a profession, we should actually also thank all of those people who worked on the Australian strategy and brought the Australian strategy into being. The 2012-2022 version is the first time that the skills of OHS professionals have actually been acknowledged. And so, as Julia has explained, there is a major area of the strategy which looks at capabilities, but also specifically mentions that those providing work health and safety education, training and advice will have appropriate capabilities. And I think that's a challenge that we as a profession need to take on in the next 10 years or 8 years of whatever's left of it, because other people can't do it for us. We've had support from Safe Work Australia in writing these chapters. Hopefully we will have more support from various sectors in increasing the body of knowledge, but as a profession we have to take on that challenge and we have to take action in order to be able to achieve that outcome by the end of the strategy. So thank you to all of those that we actually get a mention. As Julia has mentioned, while Safe Work Australia have been fabulous in coming in and funding and supporting these 4 new chapters, it was WorkSafe Victoria, now Victorian WorkCover Authority, that initiated this. It would never have come about without, as Julia said, the foresight of those people in WorkSafe Victoria at the time. The Body of Knowledge project was to have 3 outcomes: the OHS Body of Knowledge, accreditation of professional OHS education and certification of OHS professionals. And it was a major leap at the time to commit to a project of that magnitude. I'd like to invite Ross Pilkington who's the Director of Operational and Regulatory Support, to come up. And in doing that, I would like to acknowledge the ongoing impact that project that came from then WorkSafe Victoria is having on the profession. Thanks, Ross.
Yes, it was a long gestation elephant to be proud of us. The truth of the matter is that when this journey started, it was driven by a chap by the name of Clarke Martin, and his passion, drive, energy, enthusiasm and many other things would not have seen it to be the success if it wasn't for that individual in that space. All of the people who have contributed to it have really made a difference to this outcome, and I agree wholeheartedly with Julia about, this is about moving the profession forward and moving that capability gap forward. We're really proud that we were able to contribute an amount of money. We signed the last cheque about 3 months ago for $11,340 something, which was a pittance. But I do find that I look at the book now and I think to myself, what is it going to do into the future? And the challenge is, as was put to you today, both by David and by Julia, is to take the whole body of knowledge and say, what are we going to use for this for into the future? Because if it's just to increase our academic strides or to be accredited to it or certified by it, then as a community, as a society, we've achieved some really nice things, but nothing for safe places of work. So the challenge here is to do exactly what you say, is to take this knowledge and get employers, the unions, the employer associations, and the workers to say, that's what I've got to try and do. And until we start to see, this whole philosophy reflected in the ads for safety professionals, the ads for health and safety people, for the ads for HR people, engineers, and it's incorporated into the curriculum of every course, not just professional and practical people within OHS, then whilst we've done a fantastic job and we can slap each other on the back for that, the truth of the matter is success is somewhere down the track. And from the VWA's point of view, the Victorian Work Cover Authority, and our vision of getting workers home every day safely or returning them to safe employment, this is a tremendous step forward. We'll have certified, we'll have accredited courses. It's great, it's fantastic, but we need to engage the employers and the workers on the journey forward to get them to be pulling out, saying, give me a graduate who can not only do this capability, who has the skills and knowledge of this, but is also competent to do it. And the next stage for us is to take that skills, knowledge, capability and demonstrate it in capability, that capability in competence, and retest it on an annual or biannual or whatever basis we have to do that. So once again, we're very proud to be part of the journey. I don't know if there's much funding around into the future, but we'll, such is life. We all live in a budget-constrained world, and I'm looking forward to hearing the speakers talk about the next 4 chapters. Thank you all.